Good afternoon and welcome to Find Your Sparkle with Jen, where you'll be informed, inspired, and influenced. I'm your host, Jennifer Stewart, owner of Jazz Potential and creator of Find Your Sparkle. And today I'm super excited to have two guests with us today. Cyndi Bussey from Massachusetts, who's an author and a teacher, and Dwight Parker. I'm sorry, Captain Horatio Corkum with the Pirates of Halifax. So welcome, Cyndi, and welcome, Captain Corkum.
Nice to see you all. But how did we all get in this little box?
It's amazing what technology can do. It's like when you're away from it. Welcome to the real world, the new world, I should say. I should say that, Captain. And I wanted to say a huge congratulations to you, Cyndi, on the new book that you have. You are an author and you're actually a teacher and you've been a software developer. And I'm really curious. The book that I want to talk about today has a special tie to Nova Scotia. So, Cyndi, can you just give us a little bit of an overview of how on earth someone from Massachusetts came to Nova Scotia, ended up working with the Pirates, and then writing a book about Oak Island. So fill us in, because there's a big story there.
All righty, I'll do that. I actually came up in 2018, and toured the island. And from that, I wrote my first book, Annie Goes to Oak Island, along with Ray Johnson, my friend, and the person who gave me Annie to begin with. And then I came back up in 2019, and I do believe it was the last tour that they have had on Oak Island. It was October 31st, I think, and it was Halloween. And I was invited to go on the tour. So there we were on the tour, and we ran into all these pirates, like trying to bury treasure on the island, and, you know, telling us to go away and don't look here and all this stuff. And it was very intriguing. So at the end of it, you know, I got a couple of pictures with the pirates, and it was really cool and everything. And then the next winter, we were all quarantined for a while. And I was trying to think of a second book to write. And I said, you know, those pirates, that sounds like a good idea. So I gave Captain Corkum a call. It's amazing he was able to use the telephone. But
no, you sent your courier pigeon to the ship.
Oh, I sent the courier pigeon. That's right. And so I said, hey, would you like to be in a book? And he said, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. So that's how it started. And I developed the story, and Captain Corkum helped me a lot with some of the photos. I take photos and then I turn them into illustrations. And so Captain Corkum, in fact, in one of these pictures in here, was the person on both sides. He was shaking his own hand, and that kind of worked out. So we had I think we had a lot of fun working on it. And then I came up last summer, and we did some spots and some book signings and stuff, and it was a good time.
Well, that's incredible. Now, Captain, I want to just ask you, how did you feel being asked to be part of this book and, you know, taking an active role in helping with that?
Well, you know, when the courier pigeon arrived on the ship, and the message, we read the scrolled message that was attached to his leg that Cyndi had sent, telling us about this wonderful book with Annie. And we had met Annie, the whippet dog who's the subject of the book, on Oak Island. And we've done a few tours over the years there with them through Lisa and members of the team, the cast of the Curse of Oak Island TV show. We'll get a little plug in there for them. Yeah, and I mean, I shared it with the crew, and I said, you know, the other captains, and I said, look at this, you know, she wants us to be the subject of this adventure that Cyndi's going on, or Annie's going on, and Cyndi too, and it's for the IWK Children's Hospital, funds for that. Now, I have a long history going back to nigh on 40 years of raising money for the IWK, and a lot of miracles happened there. And my son was in there, and several other family members, and they truly do perform miracles. And I've been back since as a pirate as well, helping out in the telethon and a few things. And, so it was such a great idea to be able to be a part of this. And we've been doing the promotions, as Cyndi was saying there, about we've done signings at chapters, and we did the Liverpool Queens County Museum this summer. That was a great one, where Cyndi did an actual reading, and some TV work was done there on that visit. And we've done the Lunenburg Craft Show in July, and we're actually been asked back to do the Lunenburg Christmas Craft Show this Saturday and Sunday, the 3rd and 4th of December, and then some more signings also at the chapters, mostly in Halifax and Dartmouth, and then some other areas as well as time goes on. And chapters are now selling the book across Canada, and it's going very well, and we're very pleased with the results. So a big thank you and a hug to Cyndi for thinking of us. To be involved in this project has just been very, very rewarding in regards to helping out the IWK.
That's amazing. Now, Cyndi, how did you come up? What made you decide to donate the contributions to the IWK hospital?
When I decided to write a book, it's not something I wanted to do to make money. And I really thought, this is something I can do, that I enjoy doing, the creative process for it. I get to sell them to kids and have kids love them. And then I want to take what is left, the proceeds, and do something good with it. So since I was a Nova Scotia book, I wanted a Nova Scotia charity, and I know the IWK is also near and dear to many of the members of the Oak Island team, and so it just seemed like the natural place to go.
That's amazing. Now, I'm sure that they must have been thrilled to be, for you to have chosen them to be that honorary recipient of anything. Can you explain was there any kind of a ceremony or any kind of a special occasion that kind of commemorated that was going to be happening for them?
Actually, yes, and I should have dug up the picture for it. It's on my Facebook page. We've done a couple things. The first one was with the first book. I went there. I was connected with Shannon Publicover, who used to work there, and she was in the fundraising department, and she's also an Oak Island fan. So that's how I got connected up with them. And then when I got about 3,000 in proceeds for them with the first book. And I won, and they gave me a big check, and I had the big check, and I had Annie, and Shannon was in the picture, and Daisy was the other fundraising person. And so that was the ceremony for that. The second book, which was the Halifax book, we had a release party. And
nice. That's great. Release parties are huge.
And Dwight set that all up. Dwight and the publisher Boulder Books and Jeff set that up. And so we had that. What was the name of the place? I can't remember. It was in
Alderney Gate.
Yes, Alderney
in Dartmouth.
Gate. Yeah. And we were on lots of TV shows then, and we were in lots of publications, and it was a lot of fun, actually. So that was the ceremony for the second book.
That's awesome. What's been your biggest, I think, aha moment with going through all of the, the whole process of writing the book and having it published, and then having to promote it and having the release party? What are your biggest aha moments and takeaways for that?
I learned a lot about the book writing process with the first book. It was sometimes a little stressful. And
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so that was one aha moment. But the other one was, honestly, it's the Oak Island team was so cooperative and so helpful with both books. And they signed books for me that I auctioned off for charity. And
nice.
They've been so good and so wonderful, as has everybody I've met in Nova Scotia. I can't say what a friendly place Nova Scotia is. I haven't met a mean person there, and it's just been wonderful. And I love doing something for charity. And so the whole thing of, you know, giving and getting, and you know, the whole cycle, it's just, it's a really good karma thing, and it's really good for making you feel good and making your blood pressure go down and all that fun stuff. So it was, that's basically the experience of doing it. It's just been so enjoyable.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that you know, that you even said for, you know, the whole experience of it, bringing your blood pressure down and just even doing something that you love, right? That
Yeah.
it's not, sometimes we forget that, you know, just because you're writing a book, you're not writing it necessarily
Yeah,
for a profit. You're writing it for the enjoyment of it, not just for yourself,
exactly.
but for everyone who picks that up. Now, before we go for a break, I just wanted to, can you give a quick little overview of Annie, your character, your main character in your book? And then we're going to have a quick break.
Okay. Annie was given to me in, I think, 2016 by my neighbor, Ray. Ray breeds whippets, Ray Johnson, and I am eternally grateful. He walked across the street one day and put her in my arms and said, "Here's your whippet." I'm like, okay. And
Wow.
yeah, so he showed her, he's a breeder and a handler, so she's a champion. She's actually a grand champion. And
Wow.
yeah, and she had passed the therapy dog certification, but I think it's expired now. I have to redo it. But she's just the sweetest animal on the planet. And I did introduce you to her, but she's next door again because she just had a litter of puppies. Yeah, so I brought her up and Ray came up with me, and that's how the whole thing began.
Oh my goodness, that is absolutely amazing. I love that story. We're going to have a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with the story. You're listening to CIOE 97.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Great.
Welcome back to CIOE, and welcome back, Captain and Cyndi. Now, just before the break, Cyndi was talking about Annie and giving a little bit of an overview of how beautiful and quaint and cute that this little puppy dog is. Now, I would like to know from you, Captain, what did you think when you were when you first met Cyndi and when you were approached to actually be part of this book, and what kind of an aha moment or epiphanies did you have going through this process?
Well, I think it was really after the book was published and Cyndi sent up some proofs and we looked at it and everything, and it was really, really amazing to see yourself in a publication, really, and like that as a children's book, because you get those IBN numbers,
ISBN.
ISBN, yeah. Numbers, and that goes on for eternity. That book will always exist, so that's kind of overwhelming. But the biggest reaction is what we get. We do a lot of corporate things, we do community events, government things, and mostly festivals and children's birthday parties. And so now we've incorporated this into the festivals and the birthday parties, where we do a reading of the book. And you get 50, 60, 80 kids at a gathering, and you're reading this book and they're looking at the illustrations, and you're able to hold their attention for about 15 to 20 minutes while you're reading this is really quite something.
It is.
And to see the smiles on their faces and the looks of wonderment, because the book is basically 3 to 8, 3 to 9, in that range age group. And to see the look on their faces, and some of them do know about Oak Island, and some of them do watch the show, and they're quite enthralled with the whole thing, and of course Annie too, and it's just the whole adventure, because this book has Lisa, who's one of the tour guides on Oak Island, as a wizard. It has a dragon, it has a knight in shining armor, it has a magical squirrel, and it has pirate ship. What else am I treasure? What else am I missing, Cyndi? I think
You're missing the knight in not so shining armor, because
the knight in shining armor.
Yeah.
which is Mr. Rick Lagina from Curse of Oak Island.
Mhm.
And he's a good sport about being involved in that.
Very.
And books with Cyndi. And to be able to do that, and we're hoping that at some point when the tours resume on Oak Island, they haven't been going since COVID started, that the tours will be back, and we'll be able to sit down with some of the children and the adults too, because they enjoy the book too, and be able to read it to them and really bring a little extra entertainment to the whole Oak Island history and adventure. Yeah, really, it was quite something.
That is pretty amazing. So I'm curious, when are you guys planning to collaborate together on any other projects or any other books or any videos or music or what? I mean, because I know that the Pirates of Halifax are always involved in things, and it seems like, Cyndi, you've got a never-ending curiosity, I think, for creativity and for adventure. So what do you think is next? How are you going to collaborate?
I know we were thinking of doing a video, a little kind of not a music video,
Promotional,
a little promotional video of kind of reenacting some of the book at some point. We were going to do it last November, but we decided it was just too darn cold.
Well, and hurricanes, bloody hurricanes, if they'd stop blowing.
Yeah. So maybe we'll get to do that next summer. We're looking for a oh, what's the name of the boat? I forgot.
A dory.
A dory.
I think we've got one.
A dory. That's the hardest part so far, is getting somebody to let us use their dory. But hopefully we can do that next summer.
That would be fun. That definitely sounds fun. Now, when we were talking offline before we were recording, you were talking about when you got first introduced to Oak Island, Cyndi. So I want to go back to that for a little bit, because it's fascinating. And I had mentioned my son worked on that production for a couple of seasons. So it's always fascinating to me, the lore for people. And can you share a little bit about what drew you in and how you got involved and kind of hooked on Oak Island?
Yeah, I had a problem with my cable TV, actually, with the higher end digital channels, and I had somebody working on it, and my job was to watch a digital channel and see what happened. So I happened on History Channel, and I was watching these two guys doing the strangest things. They were drilling holes and climbing down in them, and sending divers down in them, and I'm like, what are these people doing? And after it was a marathon that they run in the morning on Saturdays or Sunday, I can't remember which. And at the end of the marathon, I didn't realize there was a marathon that ended at noon. At noon, Pawn Stars came on, and I'm like, no. I had to find out what happened to that diver who went down in that hole. So unfortunately, or fortunately, there are a lot of divers that went down in holes, and I couldn't figure out which episode it was. So I just went back to the beginning and watched the whole thing over Christmas break. So.
Wow. And you became kind of fascinated, addicted, decided that you had to come to Nova Scotia. What was it?
Yeah.
What was it specifically that drew you to Nova Scotia to come actually see Oak Island?
I found out that there were tours, and I didn't realize how incredibly difficult they were to get on one. But I totally lucked out, and I was able to get on one in 2018, and I absolutely loved it. And the thing I like about Oak Island, and it's what I like about the Pirates as well, is that it's so family oriented, and it's so, so much camaraderie, very team oriented, both of them. If you hang out with these pirates for 5 hours or so, which I have, you can really see them interacting, and they're good friends, and they love children, and they love people. And Captain Corkum, a person cannot walk by without him saying something to them and drawing them into the circle. So that's what I love about both. I love it's just emanates goodwill.
I love that. Now, Captain Corkum, what would you like to add with your whole experience with Oak Island? I mean, you've been going there for a long time, and when you first met Cyndi, how did you end up knowing that Cyndi was going to be the person that you would end up collaborating with? And I
Well, I
do know
didn't
that, yes, you
really.
definitely speak with everyone.
Yeah, it was a little while later that I realized that she had written this first book about Oak Island, and I was interested in that because Oak Island has been crossing my path since I was about probably 5 or 6 years old. Used to
Mm,
spend a lot of time in Western Shore, the Chester area, with my parents way back. And we spent, my dad had friends and business associates in the Chester area, and we spent time at their cottages and so on, and got to know a lot of the characters in there. Many of them are long gone now, but the whole legend of Oak Island was always there. We were actually taught it in school, about what the possibilities were. It was mostly about pirate treasure. And that's kind of where that area at that time and that age was where I kind of got this whole idea, not as elaborate as it is today, but about the Pirates of Halifax. And there were there were a lot of guys, like people from Cook Island, who were just like something out of, Treasure Island movie Disney was doing. They were like real pirates, these weathered, fishermen who
yeah.
drank a lot of root beer and did a lot of crazy things, and it was just fascinating to me, that whole history. And I'm a big history buff. I can actually teach it in the schools, and I have it as part of my degree from Dalhousie, and I have done so. And so I'm fascinated with Nova Scotia history, Canadian history, British history, and some U.S. history as well, European. And that whole Oak Island thing, it's a mystery wrapped inside of an enigma.
Mm,
And there's so many possibilities, something like 20 theories out there of what is buried on the island or what it was all about. And it's just interesting. The show has really taken off worldwide.
mhm.
So much interest in it. It's now being shown in China, and they're just itching to get rid of COVID so that they can all come over here on tours. And right now, the only tours that's being done is Tony Sampson of Salty Dog Tours,
Mm.
down at Oak Island Inn. And plug in there for Tony, because he does a great tour and a great fellow. And so if anybody wants to do a tour around the island, which I've done several times,
Okay, not on the island, but around the
yeah,
island.
we're
Yeah, okay.
hoping that 2023 that they will open it up to
Yes.
public tours, because they do about I think 4 a weekend, and there's usually about 150 on the tour.
Mhm.
So that's 600 people a year, or a weekend.
A weekend.
They
Right.
do that for probably 20 weekends. And many people, such as myself and Cyndi, who have done the tour many times. I've actually been involved in a little bit of the research there as well, on some of the stuff on the island. And it really, truly is a mystery. There's no
Mhm.
doubt about it, what's going on there. There's many things that just totally baffle you. Yeah.
It's true. What do you think that the biggest lure for people, is it the fact, is it, that whole growing up with that whole romancing the pirate and the
Yeah.
treasure and everything? Is that, do you think what it is?
Yeah, maybe, but it's I think a lot is the connections between the early days of Nova Scotia, because we're pretty much the oldest part of Canada before Newfoundland joined. And the way that the currents go, like the Gulf Stream and so on, there were a lot of things going on, a lot of activity in the North Atlantic, in the South Atlantic, and the North Caribbean and Mexico, and treasure ships going up this way. So I think it's the lure of probably some bad pirate guys, as
Mhm.
depicted in the movies, and Knights Templar of religious artifacts probably shipped over here, and the Spanish galleons that were going by our coast and were probably blown in here from hurricanes or storms, and damaged, and therefore had to offload and bury
Mhm.
items of value here. So, and the Laginas and their team have really captured the imagination of people around the world about what is there, and the mystery, and the whole process of trying to get there. They're not only trying to find treasure, but they're trying to find the answers of what really occurred there all those years ago, possibly
Mhm.
going back 800 years ago.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's amazing.
amazing.
It
It,
is
it
quite incredible.
it's probably the best reality TV show I've ever seen.
Yes.
Awesome. I love that. So we're going to be almost out of time here, but before we go, I wanted to just talk quickly about what are your next plans? Cyndi, you mentioned about another book and possibly coming back to Nova Scotia perhaps this year. Do you want to talk a little bit about that before we go?
Absolutely. I'm actually working on a book right now, and it's called Annie and the Salty Dog. And that's actually starring Tony Sampson. And we go on an adventure through Mahone Bay and looking for a ship that's gone off on its own. And that one I'm starting to work on the art for. And then as I was talking to you earlier, I would love to do the next book on maybe the Mi'kmaq and the indigenous peoples, and try to pull some of that history and culture into a book for children.
That would be wonderful.
Excellent.
And we had mentioned about the North American Indigenous Games coming to Halifax this summer in July, which would be a really cool opportunity for that. Now, how about you before we go, Captain?
Well,
what are you guys up to this next little chapter?
Well, just to add what Cyndi was saying, I'd like to see this as an animated series, the first
That
three
would be
books,
very
and
cool.
whatever happens beyond there, that would be great. But the Pirates of Halifax, during COVID, we had some downtime. There weren't a lot of festivals or corporate events going on.
Sure.
So we started writing some material, and we have about 14 songs altogether. And we're recording some demos now. And it's sort of piratey Celtic type of music. And
Awesome.
we're going to be featuring that on a CD, and it's going to be a very unique CD with a lot of atmosphere on it.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'm learning the mandolin.
Oh, that's perfect.
Which is kind of hard to play if you have big hands.
This is true. Well, I want to say thank you both for being here. This was a lot of fun. It was really great chatting with you and seeing you again, Captain. And it was really great meeting you, Cyndi. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about Annie and those books. And I'd like you both to hold up the books, though, because the radio isn't going to be able to see it. But on the video, we'll be able to see a copy of the book. So Annie and the Pirates of Halifax. Amazing.
And we've got links. We got links as to how you can get them online if you want, and available at Chapters and through Boulder Books as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for being here. It has been an absolute pleasure. And I got one quick question for you before I go. What makes you sparkle?
What makes us sparkle?
Yeah.
Creativity, people.
Yeah, I like creativity. Yeah.
That's awesome. Perfect. That was
Excellent.
A great answer. Thank you again for being here. We'll talk to you again. And remember to go out and do something that makes you sparkle today and every day. You're listening to CIOE 97.5 FM, and we'll talk to you soon, friends. Bye for now.
Excellent. So long, everybody.